In this video, I'm talking about the 5 ADHD study tips that helped me get through college. Hi, I'm Dr. Legrand, and I have ADHD and dyslexia. So let's dive in. What are the 5 study tips that really helped me, especially for having an ADHD brain? Because let's be honest, a lot of the neurotypical study tips out there don't always work with our ADHD brain. So I had to be really creative when I was going through college and medical school of having it work for me. So I want to share with you what helped me the most of going through college and medical school having ADHD and dyslexia. The very first ADHD study tip that I would recommend is discovering how to learn outside the box. So learning outside the box is you got to be a little bit more creative and learning differently than the neurotypical person learns, because all those study tips are great, but we got to take an extra step of learning outside the box. So what does this mean? Well, for me personally, when I was learning how to do all these different types of study tips, learning flashcards, all the typical stuff, taking good notes, is I had to be a little more creative and think outside the box. So for example, I discovered about mind maps. Now, mind maps worked for me because I am more of a visual and creative type of learner. And when I decided to create notes, I did it by creating more mind maps so that I can visualize it better, so I can recall the information, and it was more entertaining for my ADHD brain versus just writing just general notes. At the same time, when it came to creating flashcards, instead of just creating just the typical flashcards and recalling the information, is I also would draw different creative diagrams on them or a lot of different funny characters on these different flashcards because I really like drawing, and that's what my ADHD brain enjoyed doing. So sometimes it means that you have to do things outside the box for your ADHD brain that your ADHD brain will enjoy doing, and pairing it with the neurotypical study tips that are out there. The second ADHD study tip is building a relationship with your professor, especially before you actually take the class. So what I would do in college is I would prep way in advance. I would go visit these professors and get to know them. And I would ask them, a really good question to ask them is why they are passionate about the subject that they're going to teach. Now, if they don't have a very good answer, or they're like, well, this is kind of a secondary class that I have to teach, then I wouldn't take it with that professor. You need to find out why they're passionate about it so that you can be passionate about it. Because if they're not passionate about it, guess what? It's gonna be really hard to get that passion for our ADHD brain to really be engaged in that class in the first place. But on top of that, as you're building this relationship with this professor, you can meet with them one-on-one, and that's what I did a lot, is I would meet with a professor one-on-one so I could get extra help, especially with my ADHD brain, is that I needed more attention, and professors are willing to do it. Now, if you find a professor that's not willing to do that, then guess what? You need to find a different professor. There's always options to look at different professors. You might have to change your schedule a little bit, but that's what I highly recommend. That's made a huge difference for me of succeeding in college and medical school, is changing professors if I needed to. The third ADHD study tip that really helped me is planning my study strategies. So there is a lot of studying that you have to do in college or in medical school or any kind of schooling, is you're gonna have lots of different subjects. And it's important to plan way ahead, to plan, okay, when are the exams? This is what I would do, is I would plan when all the exams were. I would get the outline of the class. I forgot what they call those, but you know what I'm talking about. They give you the outline of the class of when the exams are, how often you're gonna be taking quizzes, if you have to do any writing assignments, they give you that. I forgot what they call that. What is that? Anyways, you guys know what I'm talking about, the outline of the class. And basically, you want to plan that out and take all the subjects and put it in a calendar, and you could see it visually. It's okay, these are when all the exams are. Then you want to plan and strategize, okay, how am I going to learn all the material in enough time for that exam? And you want to schedule that in. But more importantly with planning is planning how to eliminate all distractions. So you know what those distractions are. If you are in an apartment and there's going to be distractions, do you need to be studying in a different area, maybe at the library, or do you need to be using music or white noise to be able to eliminate those distractions? So plan ahead so that when you are studying, it is not distracted, so that you be the most productive with your ADHD brain. Along with that, you need to actually plan in your study breaks. Study breaks are really important, especially for ADHD, is we need those constant rewards and breaks because we rely on trying to increase our dopamine levels for our ADHD brain. And if we are not giving our ADHD brain those rewards to increase our dopamine levels, our ADHD brain's not going to be motivated to continue on studying. So it's really important to put in those breaks, but also making studying also engaging and very fun to do will keep our ADHD brain very active when we are studying. The fourth ADHD study tip that I highly recommend is using your talents and gifts that you do have. Now, you might not think you have any gifts or talents because you have ADHD, but you're wrong. Everybody does have some shape or form of some kind of gift. Might be small, might be big. For me, it was definitely being more creative. Now, a lot of people with ADHD tend to be a little bit more creative. They're really good at arts, but not everybody with ADHD does. It might be music. It might be, being good with hands-on material, whatever it could be, but find out what those strengths are, find out what those talents and gifts are, and trying to use it for learning. So for me, to give you guys an example, because I liked drawing, I liked art, I was more visual, what I would do in class is I literally would have crayons and all sorts of like oil pastels and like different art materials and supplies in my backpack. And I would take it out and I would have a big piece of paper and I'd sit there and paint and draw out whatever the professor was talking about. Now, by me be just one big picture, it might have been a picture of a heart, and then I put some things. But the reason why is because my ADHD brain is very engaged on that, but my other side of the brain is really engaging and learning the information because I'm keeping both sides of my brain very active by doing that. And so therefore I retain the information more. Now that is one example, but also when I would be studying on my own, same thing, I would be drawing more stuff. So I took those strengths and applied it to being more creative and retaining the information and able to excel getting through college and medical school. The fifth study tip that really helped me is by using smell to trigger memory. Now, people with ADHD, because we get distracted a lot, sometimes we have issues with also memory and focus. So what I would use is I would use two different types of essential oils, and I would use these every time. So it's important to be using the same type of smell, especially when you're studying, and especially when you're taking an exam. Now, why that's important, because they've seen research, when you're using smells, it can re-trigger memory, especially when you're studying. So what I would do while I'm studying is I would use rosemary, an essential oil that actually has been proven to show to increase blood flow to the brain to help improve retain information and memory. So that's what I would do is I would smell rosemary, and I would and then when I took the exam, I would also do lavender. Lavender calms me down, but I also do a combination of rosemary, so it would also trigger those smell memories. Okay, so it's really important. I'm not saying you have to use those particular essential oils. Maybe you have certain essential oils or certain smells that really calm your nervous system down, help you retain information, but those are certainly two, because lavender does help you relax. That's why I used it while I was in the exam. But smell memory is really critical, and that's what helped me a lot. Now, you might be struggling with ADHD and you're trying to figure out, how do I manage my ADHD? How was I able to manage my ADHD without the use of medications? If you want to find out how I did that, especially going through college, then watch this video right here of how I managed my ADHD without the use of medications throughout college and medical school. Watch this video right here and I'll see you in the inside. Thanks. Bye.